Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. In this video, we'll talk about chapter 4 of my book, Barbara Occult and the Birth of Life, which is the Witch's Conundrum. And as usual, we'll go through my thoughts while writing the book, my inspiration for some of the paragraphs, the plot and all that, and some of the things I used as the blueprint to write them. If you haven't read this chapter or any of the previous chapter, you can go and read it on my website, tuva.com. So in this chapter, I'm not really sure there is much to talk about or to disclose based on the fact that this chapter was just about Barbara and Semra and them just talking and being together. But anyway, so after the events of the last chapter, Blessing went back home to her dad because Blessing used to stay with Semra during the weekdays for school. Then after that, she goes back home to stay with her parents for the weekend. So it's now Barbara and Semra alone. And in the beginning of the chapter, so Barbara was going through, that's her smart scroll. I was going through Incal, which is like one of the social media accounts. I think, okay, I've told you guys how I got that smart scroll, Incal, this thing, Inclines and all that. So when she was going to play this, I think what she was doing was she was like browsing to find out if she can get any information about maybe her mother or her father on the Inkjar. So I decided to use the opportunity to do a little bit of world building because that maybe if you find out that in this world maybe you haven't seen a person but they are just in this whole city or something, there is the richest man and there is a ranking maybe first, second, third, it's going to give a sense of okay, there is money and there are people who are making money and will make you feel as if the world has depth in a way you get. And especially since maybe like one of the richest men, I think what is responsible for is the one who created their own internet, which is the Inkjar, and he's the one who created Ink out, that's the social media and all that. Then another man, he's the one who is responsible for creating things like that, the smart scroll, other forms of enchantment that's enchanted to like flying broom, moving carriage, I think even portals. And then I think the richest man is Innocent. I've forgotten what exactly he's responsible for. He's the one who used to create arms with this. Anyway, later on we'll see get more important, but that's the point. Normally I wanted to put Semra as first, but I felt that if maybe Semra is the richest person, it's going to be too okay. So Semra has everything. You get maybe Semra has this, has that. So I decided to put her as third or fourth. And so when Barbara saw that okay, she's third, she wanted to go and ask her maybe why she's third and all that. So that's when she met Semra in the garden, and Semra started explaining, and Semra took her up to her study. That's where she used to do potion to explain why maybe she's this rich. That's when I'll now give lecture on false breath, because my idea for this one was that when I started creating, that's when I started doing my world building and I started planning. And I saw that maybe everybody can do something. Like in this area, everybody can. Maybe there are people who can use wood, there are people who used to dig, there are people who used to build houses, you get. But at the same time, there is this technology that is different from us. And as this technology is different from us, there's something that is powering it, which is energy, electricity. And I think electricity is gotten from different sources, maybe water or whatever. I decided that while magicians should be able to do magic, they should also still have tools, magical tools out there. And since maybe our own machines are not powered by us, maybe we can be driving the tractor, but it's not us that is the fuel in the tractor you get. That's why I now decided that okay, I need something that will be powering magic. So I now looked at okay, breath of life, that will be something like breath of life except for tools, false breath. And obviously would have been Semra that will breathe. So that's why I started explaining it in the distance. So that's when after that Semra starts telling Barbara about the 3 puzzles she needs to solve in order to brew a potion. That's continuing from following up from chapter 2, when Michael came to ask Semra about wanting to learn magic. Semra told him she will find a way and all that. So this is the follow up as looking for a way to do something so that even mere men can be able to do magic, you get. So this was it. So I think the first puzzle was about something about that's at the beginning when I was writing this thing, it was coming to me as I was writing it. You get, it was just like the whole vampire thing. There was a puzzle about how vampires can actually perform magic in a way, whether it's running with speed and all that. These are, even till now, I haven't solved the vampire one. I haven't solved the one about, well, what it was all, I think where I got the idea for the Witcher home puzzle was when I was watching season 2 of The Witcher. That's when they were brewing, and I got the idea because they're saying they need this flower, and that's when if you watch Witchers into you understand they're doing mutagenic potion. That's to give Siri, so she'll turn into a witcher. That's why I now got to say, okay, let me use Witcher, let them brew a Witcher. Since in the games Witchers can shoot fire or use force fields and all that. Like so maybe if someone can create a Witcher, then maybe from this potion to create a Witcher, she can enhance it so that the Witcher will be able to do more. So I think it was in chapter 5 that we should finally solve one of the puzzles, which is the Witcher puzzle, but I haven't still solved the one for the vampire, and the also will be later on, maybe book 2 or so. I think it's not really, but I think I'll explain how elixir works in each chapter, how potions works. I'll explain a bit about the backstory of the entire magical community. Barbara helps Semra brew a potion. There will still be a part of Barbara Occult herself, and all that is just foreshadowing, and me is building characterization or characterizing Barbara and setting things up for later on. Even in I think chapter 3 there was a time when she held Ifunanya, told the Udemine that if he doesn't let go of the zookeeper, she was going to kill Ifunanya. And then if somebody is a reader, you might not think she did, but me, in my mind, I was going to, if the hooded man hasn't left the zookeeper, Barbara was going to kill Ifunanya. That was just like the kind of character I have of her in my mind. Yeah, so I just setting up things. Now that she cut herself, and the way she cut herself is just, so you just like maybe it's not the first time, it's not the second time, it's not the third time, you get, she's that kind of person. Anyway, so after this whole, her and Sam review the potion and talk about the puzzles and talk about the history of the magical community, they'll leave Semra study, and Semra also tell her about how nobody can come into her study, that's into the trial to steal any potion because he's spelled. That will still be foreshadowing for something else. Anyway, so that's when I think Blessing will text Barbara about how there's a party going on somewhere that she should go, and why. The reason is that Margaret is going to be there. And if you remember in chapter 2, Margaret was the daughter of that man who was sentenced to Vienna. That's the man whose trial was before Semra, you get. So it's that guy, and that Barbara has figured out that there's something connecting, that's the Whitley family, the Whitleys, with the secrets in the photo album of the missing picture. There's something about their family in there, you get. So Barbara decided that maybe she will find a way to get the information from one of them, and that's why she and Blessing decided that she's going to make that's Margaret her friend, so that Margaret can get the picture of that's her mother's wedding day for her. So she will now go to the party to go and meet Margaret. So when she I think that this chapter I told you I think I finished writing the chapter in around maybe early 222 or so. But when I now added 3 characters. I think when I even added them was this month. No, last month. Because right now I'm preparing for that's the orphan hunt, which is after Where to Find Them. That's the chapter I took from book 2 and added in chapter 3 of this book 1. The next chapter that I took from book 2 and added in this thing is Where to Find Them. So added it in that chapter 5. Normally I wanted to add it in chapter 4. When I was writing it, chapter 4 now became too long, and I decided to split it. Because the original name for chapter 4 was supposed to be Advanced Understanding of Magic, which is one of the composite topics for Barbara Occult, that's for our department. So I now changed that name from Advanced Understanding of Magic, which covered everything, into the Witch's Conundrum and the Orphan Hunt. Anyway, so when she goes to, that's when she'll meet 3 boys, I think Bombardier, Nkem Jika, and one other, I think Eddie or Freddy. So when she meets them, and that's because when I was preparing for this Orphan Hunt, I needed many characters because it's going to be like a war. That's the inspiration for the Orphan Hunt was Shibuya incident. So I need many characters. So I decided that I cannot just add random people in in the Orphan. I need to maybe bring them in a chapter before. That's why I now decided to bring those 3 boys here, because they'll be important one of the characters that will be important in Orphan War. So Barbara had a little interaction with them just to set them up there. She went on to find Blessing. And where she find Blessing is in kitchen, where that's Chisom, and Chisom is the son of one of the richest men in the magical community. Yeah, so he's having this, I don't know if I'll call it breakdown or madness, I don't know. And that whole scene, if you can read the whole scene, that whole scene is inspired. It's not even inspired. What I wrote it after that, what I used as the blueprint to write that scene was, if you know that scene, I think it was in episode 1 of season 1 of Euphoria, where I think Rue, as Sheru is the main character, Rue went to a party. That's the character that Jacob Elordi's acted. That's the tall guy. She went to his party, then in the kitchen, the guy just started breaking things and sending everybody out. It was not Jules that was the only person in the kitchen. So eventually I started bullying her. That's when she now got angry and put that knife and cut herself and was threatening to cut him. So that was a scene I used to build this my own scene. So finally, when she tried to shoot him, she tried to shoot him gun because she has a gun, which everything is built up and foreshadowing. The whole point, the reason she has a gun is because she can't use, she's a magician, but she's not good at magic, you get. And as the bullet turned into a frog, which is, is like part of his power, things like turning into a frog and all that. Anyway, so after Barbara comes and saves her, and she runs outside, her and Barbara will meet outside, and her and Barbara will talk, and they'll make a deal about how Barbara will teach her magic, and she'll help Barbara get her mother's wedding picture, that's her parents' wedding picture. So they'll go back home, and while they are at home, that's when Barbara will be letting her know all the things she has come across so far and all her plans and all that. That's when Barbara will find out that, okay, I think her mother, that's Lydia Grace, got married to Sadagras, and that's the first time maybe Barbara will see Sadagras's picture. Even though she has been saying it since, now that she know, okay, this is this person who is Sadagras, who is after me. Another thing that Barbara will now find out from her is that the person, that this girl, her father was the one who was imprisoned in Vinrats in chapter 2. So the reason her father was in prison was because he used magic to save a woman who was being harassed by some enforcers, which is like soldiers in the sectors or the men side of things. And that woman who was being harassed is Barbara Occult's friend, who, if you go back in chapter 1, where the metro was telling Semra about this Barbara Occult friend, that she had to divorce her husband because she gave birth to another child, that she had two sons, which we'll get to after all, you guys will understand. So that's when Barbara Occult will find out, okay, the person that this man actually saved was actually that her friend, and that's where the whole chapter will end. There's no really much things to talk about. Maybe I forgot something, but there's not much things for me to break down in this chapter. Anyway, you guys should like the video, leave your comments and subscribe. And thank you. Remember, you can go and read everything in my website, tuba.com, and soon, that's the next chapter after this chapter 4 is chapter 5, the orphan hunt, and we'll see how we'll go. Thank you.